Well, welcome back to Red Shoes Diary. Uh, been a week. Been a pretty good week this week. Few odds and ends a little tough, but as you get older, you expect that. Maybe you don't feel good or hurt places you normally don't hurt. And, well, that's part of life. I hope wherever you're at, you're feeling fat and sassy, and hope you've had a good week. You ain't been blown away. We've had some rough winds around here. Apparently, you're gonna could have some more come through tonight. Different weather, rain, and whatever it's going to decide to do, I reckon. I think we get thrown at every bit of it, whatever it is, we get it thrown at you in a 24-hour period. There's one day it's like 72, and then by that night it's like 32. So you just sort of ride it out. And I was blessed today. Went down, snuck in on my daughter and son-in-law, my granddaughter at church. I didn't tell them I was coming down, so just went in when church started, eased in, seen them, and then after the church, went to the child's area, whatever, nursery part, and got to see my granddaughter come out, and her go, "Oh, Papa!" Come run and hug on me, and of course, Papa had to carry her because we had. Well, that's what Papa was supposed to do. So they had somebody decide they'd cook and stuff. And they made some hamburgers, hot dogs, different stuff brought in, people eat and do. And so we stayed out there and stood around the parking lot because beautiful weather, sun. I mean, you really couldn't ask for a better day. And watched the kids play and talked to different ones because I've only been there 2 or 3 different times, and which was good. And went back to their house and hang out and played with a grandbaby, and which she's already 2.5, a little over half as tall as I am, at 38 inches. And she is a pistol. She's got drama down pat. She'll tell you something. She'll throw them little heads. No, 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 Papa. She is a mess. She definitely needs that school of drama. But think about being a grandparent and stuff. I was blessed to have be raised up both grandparents on both sides, on my mom and dad's side. When my father's dad passed away, my grandpa, I was 16 at the time. That was when earliest I lost a grandparent. But it's funny thing about grandpas, papas, where you gonna call them. On my dad's side, he was more. He'd laugh and talk, cut up with you and stuff, pull some jokes and stuff, but he's very much a. This is how it is. I think he was born in 1903. My grandmother helped him, taught him how to sign his name, and that's pretty much as far as reading and writing. But now he could do all kinds of stuff on the farm, build stuff, and definitely green thumb growing, whatever. And as far as I know, my dad said in those years that he could only remember my grandfather probably saying 3 bad words the whole time, as my dad was alive. To remember speaking. And twice the word he used, you know, today's language people use all the time. That's not really considered a cuss word. And the other word he used to describe someone, he's in the hospital and whatever's going on, he's sort of out of his mind. And he was thinking somebody was after my grandma. And he called whoever he thought it was a bad name or whatever, and he'd get to him, because he's trying to hurt Mama, and that wasn't going to happen with Papa. So I mean, I remember going in down on Sunday. He used to go to church. Then he had a heart attack, and they told him he didn't want to go back to church because he got so excited at church. They said, and I remember at his funeral, the preacher said, I can remember him walking in church saying, "I've been up on the hill talking to my Lord." And that's what he'd always say when he come in. And because he'd go up there on the ridge above his house up there, and that's, I guess he went up there and talked to the Lord. But by the time I can remember, he done had the heart attack and stuff, and can remember he was at home on, still at church on Sundays. He'd be home, but had old AM at one time. It was at Philco, then might have been General Electric uh, radio. One of the old white transistor type. You'd walk in, he'd listen to a local radio station, and they'd have the local area preacher, different ones preaching, and he'd sit in there his rocking chair beside that radio like this, with his arm on the wrist, listening to the preaching. And that's what he said to do. He listened to the preaching and stuff. Now, my papa on my mama's side, he was he, he was definitely a little different type fella. He was a little bit of a rounder there. Not that he wasn't a good man, he was just a little bit of a rounder. He definitely done a whole lot more stuff and in a lot more stuff. Some of it I'll probably tell a little later on part of his tales. So I always joked I got my size from my dad's side of the family, but a lot of my mischief comes from my mama's side of the family. And my mama had a quick wit and a sharp tongue, and she could slice and dice you and grin while she's doing something else at you. But I have to tell this number, Papa, Mama's daddy, Papa Jacks, we called him. When he was young, growing up, they go to church socials and stuff. And back in them times, he was born in 1914. This is probably right at 19, I'd say 30 or so. He's probably 16, 18, so 30, 32, something like that. Well, they would go to these church socials, and that's where, people would get together, and lots of times, they'd meet, do preaching, and sometimes that's how people got to know one another. That's how, a lot of times back in the day, that's how young boys and girls actually got to meet and be around one another. Sometimes they'd have suppers on the dinner on the grounds, they called it, or maybe they'd have like a pie supper, cakewalk, where the women cook and bake their best pies or cakes, and men would come and bid on them, or bid on dinner, supper. If they liked a certain girl, they'd try to have a little more money than the other feller, just to, that way they could sit and talk to them and eat. Back then, that was something you wanted. You want to know that gal you was thinking about sparking or wanting to date or get married to, that she could cook. You want to make sure her food was good. But women took great pride in that, being able to cook, clean, or they made their own clothes, made a lot of their own stuff. That was some type of pride that they took in being able to do all these things. But one time, him and another old feller, young fella, they started to walk these two girls home. Well, they finally go up this old holler up through the woods, up to the top, and they got the girls home. Guess I talked, courted, whatever they did back in the day. Well, they started leaving. That feller told him, he said, now, we start back down through here. He said, when we get that one patch of woods, where the woods are on both sides roads, he said, now they're going to rock us. He said, them fellers do not like us walking these girls up here, because in their idea, those are the girls they was going to date or court or whatever. I didn't want outsiders. Somebody didn't live up and holler up there dating their girls. He said, so what I want you to do, he said, when them rocks go to flying, he said, now I'm going to holler, hit the deck, hit the bank. What he told him. He said, now when you hit the bank, he said, you strike me a light. Which back in the day, that meant strike a match. Well, sure enough, Papa said, we're walking back down there, and we got that one section, trees, and, dark like. And I said, sure enough, we start through, here come these are rocking us big time. He said, old buddy said, hit the bank. He said, we jumped over and laid up against the bank, you could strike me a light. So Papa, he struck that light. When he reached nowhere, that old boy had about a half stick of dynamite. He lights that half stick of dynamite. Well, he lobs up the woods. Well, Papa up there sort of duck. Papa said about the time it went, whoom! He said, looked up, here comes sticks, and they was leaves, dirt, rock, everything. He said, about 3 old felt boys come flying off and come flying out into the road. He said, that one old boy laid there, midship raised up, shook his head, looked at it. He said, God, Jack. He said, you about killed me. He said, you about killed me. Papa said, well, there was one thing about it. Said, now me and him never got rocked no more. He said, that ended that conversation. So, I, and like I said, my papa was grinning the whole time he's telling this story. And like I said, he has some pretty good ones to tell. But I was like that right there. I wonder sometimes, if, put in perspective, if that's how it is with us. There's times we're getting rocked out. Old devil's throwing everything at us we do. I wonder if we just don't need to hit the deck and strike a light. Good book talks about, your light, how it should shine for other people, not put it in a basket. So I wonder if you should like that light, if that don't mean the good Lord, when you finally show up your light, the good Lord sees it, well, he might just throw out that stick of dynamite for you. You never know what might go flying out of there. Old devil might be thrown off over the bank, or it might hit somebody so hard that they might want to think twice about it, that they know the good Lord's backing you and that he's there for you. And it might change their life. It might make them have a come to Jesus meeting. Now, I ain't promoting, back in the day, back then when people did stuff like that, there wasn't no law calling. You didn't do any, when you did, boys going to be boys, and I reckon you were having more sense to rock that old boys, what they told you back in the day. Of course, everybody now has a hissy fit about it, but still, maybe that's what we need to do. Might need to strike that old light and let the good Lord know, I'm trying here. I'm trying to be a better Christian. I'm trying to do what's right and let my light shine. I just need a little help. Figuratively speaking, now he might do that. He might also, like I said, get the old devil off your back. Just had a discussion a while ago about that. Somebody having a hard time, and I said, well, think about it. I just heard them preaching the other day. Said, what did Jesus do when the devil's up there trying to tempt him all that time? Kept saying, well, he kept quoting scriptures to him. That's simple as it is, And finally, the devil left him alone. Well, maybe that's what's wrong with us. Sometimes we got to quote a little scripture. Maybe we just really need to talk to the good Lord. Say, I need a little help, please. And try to do the best you can. Because good book also tells you ain't nobody perfect. As we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. So we all gonna stumble. Right? Sometimes, we're just stumbling blind. All you do is best you got, folks. And that's all the good Lord's looking for. But anyway, I hope when that time comes, if you need a little help or whatever, you finally get where you need to be, that old light shining, hope the good Lord, that's what needs to be done. Maybe you just need a pat on the back or reminded that, he loves you. Or maybe you're just fighting this old world tooth and nail the best you can. You need a little dynamite thrown up there. Get the old devil off your back. And maybe help you out a little bit. Because all of us need help, whether we like it or not. We all do. Or maybe you're perfect, because tell you what, I ain't. But anyway, folks, I hope you have a good week. I hope things goes well. I hope you ain't the one throwing rocks, because as they once said, if you throw rocks, don't live in a glass house. So, you might be throwing rocks, somebody might be chunking that dynamite back at you. Anyway, I am always thankful if you show up and you listen to this. I hope it makes you smile and gives you something to think about. I hope you take time to talk to the good Lord, because you never waste time when you talk to the good Lord. He's always listening. And as the saying goes, he might also tell you no. So remember that. It might not be good what you want. But anyway, folks, have a great week. I hope that where you at, what is going on, I hope the sun's shining. I hope you get to go out and enjoy it. Spring's starting out here. We've had a couple of good days and just good weather. Thankful for that. And hope wherever you at, that's what's going on. Hope you healthy. doing well. If not, hope you take time to talk to the good Lord, or call your friends and family and say, need a little prayer up here. Need a little help. Ain't nothing wrong with that either, folks. Anyway, as I always says, may the good Lord take a liking to you, but not too soon. And other than that, y'all be careful. And as always, I'll stay.